welcome to part 2 of my Holiday Friday card series for 2018. Today we're going to be working with the My Favorite Things Oh Christmas Trees stamp set. This is a really fun holiday tree geometric stamp set. Doesn't come with any sentiments though. It comes with a few different style trees and trunks there. We're just going to use some trees. Kind of my theme for this year has been use up what's in your stash. So for paper, I'm actually pulling out some pattern paper from that stack of card bases that I picked up at a store on clearance a really long time ago, and I've been trying to use them up. I really like the patterns, so I figured that I would harvest them from the card bases, but they are scored, so I do have to make sure that I'm stamping within the score line so that my images don't get score line. So I'm not going to do any coloring on this card, but I'm going to do a lot of heat embossing with metallics. So I'm inking up my stamps with some Versamark ink. And I'm going to flip the page and then do the other side. I'm making multiple cards today in the same theme, but a couple different colorways. So you'll see different variations of this going through. I think I made a total of 6 cards. In addition to doing these film series, I'm making my personal Christmas card. So you get to join me with that. So on this light blue pattern here, I'm stamping the Ranger Liquid Platinum color, which is a really nice, not quite platinum, but it's still a really gorgeous sort of muted gold color. I did have a couple of spots where my Versamark didn't take to the paper too much, and I will go back in later with my Versa marker pen and kind of color over those empty spots and then heat emboss over it. I ended up on all of these in heat embossing, I ended up doing at least 2 or 3 different layers of heat embossing, so it ends up not really making that big of a deal that these weren't stamped quite as well. It was actually a little bit dark in the room as I was stamping, and then with the clear ink and my bad eyesight, and it doesn't surprise me that I missed some spots. But again, because I went in with the Versa marker pen and kind of covered some spots and then ended up doing 2 or 3 layers of the heat embossing, it really doesn't matter. And I really ended up liking the way that the heat embossing stacked on top of each other and sort of had this really great smooth finish look. Here I am with the Versa marker, just coloring it a bit by hand. This was a really fun stamp set. I enjoyed it a lot. It has been, I believe it's been discontinued, but I will link, I think I found it at Simon Says Stamps, so I'll have a link for you down below if you're interested. There are tons of different things that you can do with this set. This was just my interpretation this moment. So here I am using sort of that green zigzag paper as well. And I'm going to end up on the green. I'm going to heat emboss in gold. I thought that it would be fun to kind of mix up between the color themes, the different metallics that I was using. So for the gold embossing powder that I'm going to use here, I'm using my Nuvo gold embossing powder, which is one of my absolute favorites. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I used that same embossing powder at my sister's wedding invitations. Here we are on pink, and the metallic that I'm using with the pink is Hero Arts Silver Glitter embossing powder, which I really like. It is difficult to get a good color with that one, and that one definitely needed multiple layers. So I'm going to take the coordinating dies and I'm going to die cut these little trees out. You absolutely do not need the dies for this set. This is definitely one that is suitable for fussy cutting, in my opinion. Real easy fussy cutting. I just happen to have the dies. I think I bought them with the stamps, so I figured I might as well use them. I'm going to run these through with my trusty old Cuttlebug, just holding them together with a little bit of washi tape. And then I'm going to end up, I was thinking I was going to go in and hand stamp the tree trunks that you saw from the stamp set, and I decided I didn't want them. So I'm actually just going to trim by hand, just going to trim little tree trunks off. And I'm going to end up doing with all of them, and I die cut all of them and cut little trunks off. You can see how fun they, especially on that striped tree, the zigzag paper looks in the background. I kind of wanted the edge around my die cuts to be that zigzag, which is why I was heat embossing on the zigzag paper. I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers dial trimmer here to kind of make a little bit of a scalloped edge on some pieces. It's going to mat behind my trees on my card. And I didn't want them to be stitched, and all of my scallop dies are stitched. And I didn't want that, so I ended up having to pull out the old trimmer. So I've got my little paint and splash box here, and I'm just setting these aside. I'm going to put some Sukaneko Shimmer Spritz on here. And this is kind of my quarantine box. And I'm going to set that aside to dry on its own. And in the meanwhile, it's still not enough shimmer for me. And I still have a couple of scraps and other random pieces of glitter paper that I'm going to use for the main backgrounds of my cards. So I found the green and the pink are sort of an ombre glitter paper from Recollections. And the blue one is a glitter paper of a different quality. I believe it came from Walmart. I'm not entirely sure. I think the brand is called Color Block. So I'm just going to mount these to my card bases and kind of get those out of the way, because once these little things are dry, which they are, it's time to build my card. I have this foam that I grabbed, I think it was from Consumer Crafts a long time ago, and I don't use it very much. It's very thin, but I thought that I would use a little bit of it to kind of prop up those glittered panels that I made behind. So nobody's going to see them, so it doesn't matter what color I'm using. So I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the foam, and I'm going to put the foam behind those little polka dot panels that I made. And I'm not sure if I mentioned or not, the polka dot panels came from the same paper pack as these zigzag panels that you saw me grab at the beginning of the video of card bases that I was harvesting paper out of. So the colors coordinate perfectly. It ends up looking really neat on the card. So I'm just going to attach my panels to the bottom center-ish of my glitter cards. I wasn't super thrilled with the way that the two pinks looked together. It looked fine enough for my purposes, but the green and the blue I thought looked really nice. And now I'm just going to attach my trees to my center panel here. I'm using my Lawn Fawn glue. This card it took a while because I was mass producing them, but it comes together really easy. It looks really nice. Lots of shimmer, lots of sparkle, very magical looking. And I'm just propping up that center tree. I wanted to keep the center one, the striped one, just as a focal point. And I'm just propping that up a little bit with some foam squares. And now it's time for a sentiment. I did not want to put a sentiment on the outside of the card, which is a rare thing for me. I thought that it would detract from the kind of the occasion. So I'm grabbing a sentiment from the Christmas Magic stamp set from Avery Ellen. It says very simply, wishing you a magical Christmas, which I thought worked perfectly with all of that sparkle and shine. So I'm just doing this tiny little sentiment on the inside. I have my Ranger black ink because that is what I have nearby, and I'm just stamping the sentiment on the inside. And then that's it. Again, it came together really easily. It did take a while because I was mass producing them, but simple, and I used a ton of supplies that I'd just been hanging on to, which always feels really good. I hope that you have enjoyed. This is definitely a fun project for me, and this is something I think that your kids could do as well very easily. Anyway, thanks very much. I appreciate you spending some time with me, and I will talk to you later. Bye!